Hello, BookTube. There was a Dudebro summit at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston first thing this morning, and since I am widely recognized as the king of Dudebros, I had to attend. So I went first thing in the morning, where it was already boiling hot and chokingly humid. At 8:30 in the morning, it was already boilingly hot. I met with my fellow Dudebros, and we browsed outside and then inside, and it was wonderful. It was a lot of fun, and I left with a pile of books. A pile of them. I want to stress again here in the context of Brattle book hauls that my goal is to find so-called keepers. Books that I will keep on my shelves rather than whims that I will ignore or regret or whatnot. That's always the goal. I've come to make my peace with the fact over the years that there are keepers and there are keepers. Some keepers are going to be around for a long time. I'm going to get a lot of use out of them. I'm eventually not going to want to keep them. I'm eventually going to get rid of them. Or sometimes they'll be an explicitly fly-by-night thing. I will get something because I want to read it or reread it, because I want to explore it, knowing that it's going to be on the next sale pile back to the Brattle. The Brattle is a slow motion for pay library for me in that way. But the goal is to find books that are going to be here forever, that I really want to have. I don't make any pretenses that I found only keepers today, but I did find a lot of interesting stuff, or interesting looking stuff. God, it's a lot of books. It's just a lot of books. I don't know how I got them all back here. I did not, despite the fact that I was meeting a bunch of young dude bros, I did not draft any of them to lug these things back here. I did it on my own. So the first thing is a double. The one that I have in the little book room is not in the best of shape. So and the Brattle Bookshop is the only bookshop I know of where you stand a good chance of finding a thing like this a second time. This was never for sale. This was a privately done thing, a privately circulated thing for Little Brown, the publisher, the formerly Boston-based publisher. About 25 years ago, they left Boston, which is a sad day. But for a long time, for 100 years more, before they left Boston, they were just an incredibly prominent American book publisher. Every major name from the 19th century that you can think of probably published with Little Brown. And they did a book to commemorate 125 years of their publishing. This thing. That was their old Boston headquarters. And this is, you've got pictures of former editors, and some of their famous authors from all those years ago, and you've got there's Little and Brown, and you've got an original illustration there of the old Beacon Street digs. This has wonderful stories. They are, of course, carefully vetted, but I have wanted a replacement copy for mine for some time, and this is not going to turn up even once at any other bookstore that I can think of. But at my bookstore, I'm going to see this more than once in a short lifetime of browsing. So I saw it today. I grabbed it. No one else is going to want it. I'm sure that I'm not being greedy. Then this next one is by Jimmy Carre and Lucy Greaves. I don't know these two, and I have a feeling that probably they are well known. This is a UK Penguin paperback called The Naked Jape, Uncovering the Hidden World of Jokes. It is, in other words, lethally a book trying to explain jokes, which is a legendarily thankless task. But every once in a great while, I will come across a book that maybe doesn't explain humor, right, because I don't think that's possible, but that explains jokes and talks about appreciates them with background and foreground. Max Eastman, for instance, did a book just like that 100 years ago that you would think would have ruined everything it touched, but instead it was really good. And I think that's what this is doing. I think this is walking you through the various types of jokes. The title is an allusion to Desmond Morris's The Naked Ape, and it's a sign of how popular The Naked Ape was in its day. Good Lord, that book sold like griddle cakes. And that's why these authors can get away with punning in the title. Top comedian Jimmy Carre. I don't know this person. They take a tour of humor and explain all of the ramifications of it. So this could be deadly dull, but it was $1. So it asks questions like: is man the only animal that laughs? Why are clowns so scary? Do jokes make children more intelligent? Are men funnier than women? Can God take a joke? What's brown and sticky? We'll see. I bought it on a whim. Then this next one I didn't buy on a whim. I never thought that I would encounter this. Just a totally lucky day at the Brattle. This is an old Orange Spine Penguin trade paperback of Wodehouse on Wodehouse. And there he is. There he is with 2 little dogs, or is it 3? Yeah, he's got 3 little dogs there with him on the cover. And this is 3, lots of letters, and all sorts of integumentary matter for 3 little autobiographical sketches, all in the same book. So we have Bring on the Girls, Performing Flea, and Over 70, with a dumb Anthony Burgess blurb on the cover. Sheer pleasure. To read Wodehouse on Wodehouse is to read Wodehouse. Thanks. I was surprised he didn't go the whole 9 yards and say to read Wodehouse on Wodehouse is to read Wodehouse on Wodehouse. It's amazing what some book reviewers will get paid for. But this is going to be a joy. I've only read one of those 3 things in another P.G. Wodehouse anthology, so this is going to go right on the shelf with all the other P.G. Wodehouse stuff. Then we have a trade paperback of Alfred Habiger's book, My Wars Are Laid Away in Words, or later in books. This is his big biography of Emily Dickinson. I got the advanced copy of this from the publisher. I got the finished copy of this from the publisher. I could swear that I wrote about this. I'm not blurbed on it, but I could swear that I reviewed it, probably for the Christian Science Monitor. And I really, really enjoyed it. And the other day, I got an email, I think yesterday or the day before, I got an email from somebody who was just diving into Emily Dickinson and wanted to know, of course, as you all should, what Steve thinks, and found an uncharitable assessment of mine from years ago of Emily Dickinson's verse. And she's been on my mind because just I think, was it last year, there was that big revised edition of her letters. That email made me think, gee, you should reread My Wars Are Laid Away in Books. And I went and looked, and I didn't have it. And I think certainly lays claim to one of the greatest biographies of Emily Dickinson ever written. So now I didn't even know that it was out in trade paperback. So now I have it in trade paperback. Okay, this next one, I wasn't sure about. This is it's a double. I still haven't got off my fat fanny to check and see just how extensively a double it is. I found the Penguin Classic of Montaigne. It's beautiful, big fat trade paperback, and I have this, but I couldn't remember what kind of shape mine was in or whether or not it was falling apart, and this was too good to pass up, in perfect condition. So I grabbed it, even though I haven't yet checked. It is always, checking or no checking, it is always nice to get a Penguin Classic at the Brattle, at least one. This next one is a find. There were a few finds today. I love the big, enormous 1,000-page collected essays volume of V.S. Pritchett. Just love it. I just love that volume. What a cheerleading volume. Not my kind of critic. He doesn't write about books the way I do. Instead, he writes in the way, totally legitimate other way, what we could generously call the Jack Edwards way, which is really to enthuse you. It's really to cheerlead. And the collected essays of V.S. Pritchett does that like nothing else on my shelf. I love that volume. Just love it. If you read that volume, read 100 pages of it. If it doesn't make you want to read one of the books he's talking about, you're made of stone. I don't believe that. It would. It will. Something in that book, many times in that book, he will send you to your shelves or to the library for some classic that he's discussing. And that big 1,000-page thing came out at the same time. It was a book-ended piece from the publisher with a 1,000-page book of his collected short stories. I've read a lot of V.S. Pritchett fiction, and I've never liked any of it. It strikes me as just so quotidian, so dull. So I've had that volume from time to time, but I've never thought, oh, this thing weighs a ton, and you don't like this author enough to have 1,000 pages of his short stories. And when I was leaving the book-selling world, I was a bookseller for years and years and years, for a quarter of a century. And right as I was leaving that world, Modern Library came out with a little selection of V.S. Pritchett short stories. I remember it coming into the bookstore, and I remember thinking, gee, this is the perfect solution to your problem. You do want to keep giving V.S. Pritchett's fiction a try, but you don't want that big phone book type thing. So I remember seeing this at the bookstore and thinking, oh, this is perfect. It's not long. It's very elegant. This will work just fine. To really, you can live with this, you can carry it around, and if you end up liking these things, well, you know where you can find a whole lot more. But I didn't get it, and not only did I not get it, but in 2005, I wasn't carrying a cell phone around with me all the time, so I didn't photograph it or anything. I wasn't even sure that it was Modern Library. For years, every time I would see that big collected short stories at the Brattle, I would think, no, I know the version that I want, I just don't know anything about it. I don't know how to look it up. But I'll know it when I see it. And I will surely see it at the Brattle if I wait long enough. And sure enough, the Brattle provided, because I found it. It's this. Essential Stories. Look at this. It's a tiny little thing. And it's very nice. It actually has a quotidian cover with the tea coming on to boil. So I now have the very volume that I wanted. I didn't want to go blindly groping around online, and I certainly didn't want to go into a retail bookstore and be the kind of clueless customer that we used to make fun of when I was a bookseller, where a customer comes in and says, it had a nice cover. I don't remember anything that was on the cover, but it had a nice cover. I didn't want to be that, so I just figured I'll wait, and sooner or later I'll see it, and I did. Good. So now I have it, and I can give V.S. Pritchett's fiction yet another try. Then this next one is not part of a pattern. It is not part of a pattern. This is Robert Benchley. I mentioned the other day that Robert Benchley was an early 20th century humorist. He's never done anything for me. He's part of a whole generation of early 20th century humorists who've never done anything for me. I think I indicted Roy Rogers when I met Will Rogers, or was it Will Rogers when I met Roy Rogers? Whatever. One way or another, the foremost emblem of this kind of early 20th century humorist is not Robert Benchley. It's James Thurber. And they just haven't done anything for me at all. But the Brattle, somebody must have popped their clogs and had a whole bookcase of Benchley. Because a lot of these little things, these cute little books, started showing up. And if they had been big, ratty trade paperbacks, I'd have ignored them. But they're these cute little flyweight hardcovers from the 1940s that I love so much. So I found another one. I am not going to collect Robert Benchley. I am done with Robert Benchley. 3 volumes is enough. But I found From Bed to Worse, which also has lots and lots of illustrations by the great Julius Williams, who's, I think, part of the reason why I got the others. Was because I'm a huge fan of New Yorker cartoons, and Julius Williams is great. He is absolutely great as a New Yorker cartoonist, and he's all through here. He's all through here with full page pictures and also smaller pictures. So I have another Robert Benchley. I'll probably smile a bit at some of them. I probably will. This one says what a lot of them say, which is this is by the author of the Treasurer's Report, up top there. The Treasurer's Report, which has a long and tortured history of its own beginnings as a bit of stand-up comedy, I guess you could call it. Campbell Scott did a version of that there was a movie about Dorothy Parker maybe 40 years ago. It was terrible. Largely, it was terrible. And Campbell Scott plays Benchley in that movie. And as a way to show us Benchley and the wit of the time and the Algonquin Round Table, they just have him do the bit of the Treasurer's Report. And there's very little that Campbell Scott can't do. So it is good, but boy, oh boy. I mean, I'm sure that he completely captures the essence of the humor of the thing. But only to prove me right. Only to prove that it's just not the kind of humor for me. But I'm going to give it another try. I am most certainly not going to do the wrong approach to these Benchley books that I've been getting at the Brattle, which I'm done with now. I only need 3 Robert Benchleys. I'm certainly not going to do with these books the wrong thing, which is to skim or even not look at the prose and just enjoy the pictures. I'm not going to do that. I will give Robert Benchley a try. Another try. Yet another try. Then we have George Bernard Shaw. When George Bernard Shaw was a literary lion, on stage, on the written page, in newspapers, in books, he started a correspondence with an ardent young fan of his writing. And they met and they hit it off. And Shaw really liked young company. He liked the company of energetic young people. He felt very much so that it kept him on his toes. He used to complain, and he wasn't the only one. His almost exact contemporary, Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., also used to complain that, the nice thing about young people, they're not constantly caretaking. I remember reading that quote from Holmes a long, long time ago, and thinking, what does that mean? It sounds nice if you've got old friends or older people who are worried about your physical health. And it is nice. That is nice. But Oliver Wendell Holmes and also George Bernard Shaw used to point out that when you've got really old friends or worse, old family members or whatnot, they tend to do that excessively. And that tends to abet your frailties rather than help them or even counter them. It tends to abet them. It tends to make you more frail. I read that quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. a long, long time ago, and now I have lived long enough to know the truth of it. There is nothing better than a young friend who's keeping an eye on whether or not you're steady on your feet. But older friends who are only keeping an eye on that and aren't paying attention to anything else. Anyway, that was a digression. Shaw corresponded with this guy who went on to become a theater critic of his own. And eventually, their correspondence and a bunch of mini treatises that Shaw wrote about being a critic were collected in a book, Advice to a Young Critic. Never thought I would see this. Never in a million years thought I would see this. This is a joy. Just a joy to find. I swear, the Brattle is my favorite place. But we're not done. Not by a long shot. We have lots of other books to do. I don't know how I got these back. For some unknown reason. Well, actually, it wasn't an unknown reason. It was because of COVID. I used to have the Uber and Lyft apps on my phone, connected to my bank account, so that if I needed to call a car, I could easily do that, no matter where I was. I used to have that on my phone. I preferred Lyft. I used to use that often. And for some unknown reason, I don't. I got rid of them because of COVID, and for some unknown reason, I have not put them back. So I came all the way back here in 95-degree heat and 95% humidity, lugging 1,000 pounds of books. But anyway, let's move on. We have two. These next two are very similar. They're anthologies about the joys of reading, personal anthologies of some literary poobah's favorite reading over his lifetime. Which is a type of thing that really isn't done anymore. We really don't have these kind of public intellectuals anymore. The first one is Charles Van Doren. This is The Joy of Reading, where he takes you through the classics and comments on them. So the thing starts off with Henry Adams' History of the United States, but oddly, and then it moves on to Mortimer Adler. But then it goes to Aeschylus, Aesop, Euripides, Sophocles, Homer, that sort of thing, Pride and Prejudice, William Blake, Danny Defoe, Cervantes, Shakespeare, with the entries and then his thoughts on the subject of why they're so joyful. So this is the type of thing that I love reading, this type of anthology that I absolutely love, a lot like the thing I mentioned with V.S. Pritchett. And I found also a very similar book from a longtime friend and former student of Charles Van Doren's brother. This is Clifton Fadiman. I found his book, Readings I Have Liked. A great big thing that this does not do the Van Doren approach. This does not go through the classics. This is instead literally just stuff that Fadiman has liked. Most of it taken from the reading of the day, so a lot of it will be familiar. What have we got here? Thomas Mann, John Dos Passos a few times, Somerset Maugham, Santayana, Conrad Aiken, E.B. White, S.J. Perelman, Bertrand Russell, Catherine Ann Porter. And he starts off, if I remember correctly, Bothering Me. My Life is an Open Book is the name of his introduction to this volume. Is it some constant nervous need for reassurance that makes human beings so alert to point out the capacities that separate them from the lower animals? Thus, we have rationality, and in parentheses he writes, I am hastily wiping that silly grin off my face. And beasts do not. This is not true. Non-human animals exhibit rationality, quite a bit of it. We use tools. They don't. This is not true. Many non-human animals use tools, and also teach the use of tools to strangers and to their children. Man, some solemn ass one pointed out, is an animal that laughs. Animals do not laugh. It's true. No other animal uses little plosive explosions of air past their vocal cords. That's true. But almost every other kind of animal has something that is only a laugh. They have some kind of utterance that is only that and nothing else. So you have to call it a laugh. You have to define these things by what they do, not by what they sound like. Almost every kind of animal has a laugh. Almost every one of them does something that you would have to call a laugh because it is a thing they do in response to a certain kind of stimulus that is not like any other response they have in any other kind of stimulus, and that denotes amusement. But anyway, let's move on. We have long memories. Beasts, save for the proverbial elephants, do not. It's true. The part of the human brain that organizes and retains memory is vast. Gigantically strong. It's not the only brain that does that. We make war on each other and have at last, after much trial and error, learned how to exterminate our species, whereas animals have to depend for their own destruction largely on the mere accidents of nature. Although, well, to destroy a whole species or the biosphere of the planet, yes. But there are plenty of other animal species that make war on each other. These are some of the criteria which man has set up to demonstrate his superiority. Criteria being cheap, I should like to add another. Man, modern man, is a word-making and word-reading animal. Both of us, I who compile this book, you who read it, are engaged in specifically human acts. Writing, and more especially reading, represents habits we engage in constantly, almost from the cradle to the grave. Civilized man is a reader. And finally, we save that it is absolutely saved. That is absolutely true. Humans write and read. And no other animal does. So great. Finding these two anthologies together, two men who knew each other and whose reading was vast and whose status as public intellectuals largely does not exist anymore. That was great to see them like that, to see them together like that. Obviously, they both needed to come home with me and be forever together on a shelf. But we're not done. We have a lot more to do. I found a UK hardcover of The Russia House by John Le Carre. Not anything. This is Hodder and Stoughton, I think. Yeah, and it's not, the cover design is not anything to write home about, but it's better than the American hardcover design. And I want to do a lot of rereading of John Le Carre. I have been very slowly. But I want to continue it. I think I want to do a lot of it. Spurred, you would think, by Dr. November, a BookTube event where a couple of years ago I just gave it over to John le Carre. But no, it's actually as much spawned by the John le Carre pastiche novel that his son wrote, Carla's Choice. That is truly wonderful. It's necrofiction, it's pastiche fiction, it feels sacrilegious. No one but John le Carre should write a Smiley novel. And yet, it's truly wonderful. And a thing like that, I mean, when I sit back and lace my fingers across my belly and say, no one but John le Carre can write a John le Carre novel, I like to stay right about those sorts of things. I don't like some book to prove me wrong about such things. And yet, Carla's Choice did. In the first chapter it did. And it just went on from there. That unsettled my pins and needles and has made me want to reread John le Carre. And the Rush House, if I remember correctly, is a strange John le Carre novel. Simpler, more heartfelt, even funnier. It's been a long time. Actually, let's find out. It has been... about 30 years since I read this book, so high time for a reread. I found Crig's book, Jacobean Pageant. I haven't had this, and this has shown up on library tours of this channel, but I got rid of my old copy. It basically fell apart on me, and I haven't found a duplicate. But I knew that I would. I knew that I would find one at the Brattle, and this is a collection of biographical portraits of major Jacobean figures. So there we have King James. But let's see here. We have... I went looking for this, but this is basically a history of the Jacobean reign, of James I and James II. James I and, his sons and all of the controversies and emergencies that came about in that reign, which were brought to my mind by a book called The Scapegoat that came out last year about Villiers, the favorite of the king. I remembered, this is so evocative, this is so well written, that when I was reading that book, and especially when I finished The Scapegoat, which was great, I immediately wanted to go straight to this book, and I went looking, and my copy was in 5 pieces, so I gave it a decent burial, and I thought, sooner or later, the Brattle will provide. Sooner or later, you will see another copy of this book, and I did. Now, this is in a little bit rough shape. I'll need to fix it, but it's in not nearly as rough shape as these next 3. These next 3 I got, they are multiple rebuys. I get these, and then I get rid of them. Every time I get them, I get rid of them. I'm going to try and hold on to them this time. I found the Centennial History of the American Civil War by Bruce Catton. So Volume 1 is The Coming Fury, and as you can see, this is going to need a little bit of tender loving care. Then Volume 2 is Terrible Swift Sword. Same thing, but I don't mind these being battered. I can fix them. I can bring them back into really good shape. And then the third book is Never Call Retreat. This one is in the best shape of the 3. A little bit of a boring cover there, but that's all right. These 3 are American history, but they are just unbelievably good. Catton is just unbelievably powerful. He's an unbelievably great writer. And I every time I have these things, I get rid of them, and then I go looking for them, and all that I have is ebooks. But I also have those little white mass-market paperbacks, which are a lot of fun, and they bring back a lot of nice memories of reading on endlessly hot summer afternoons in Iowa. But they don't really hold up, and they don't have a whole lot of room for marginalia, and they don't have any capacity at all to take clipped and folded pieces and book reviews and whatnot, and these do. So I should always have the 3-volume set. I should always have the 3-volume set, even though I think plans are in the works from the Library of America to put the Centennial History of the American Civil War into 1 volume for the Library of America, like they did with the Army of the Potomac. I really like another Library of America volume of Bruce Catton. That would be great. But even that wouldn't be good enough. I want these 3 volumes. So now I have them in sufficiently ratty shape. These are in sufficiently ratty shape so that I think I will probably not feel right giving them away, which is actually a safeguard to me. It means I might hold on to them. I might have them. And then finally the last thing, which is another thing you've seen on this channel if you've watched me for an ungodly length of time. This is a hardcover of something I usually see only in trade paperback. I love it. I first read it actually when it came out. The 80s? In 1981. This is Sand Rivers by Peter Matthiessen with photography by Hugo van Lawick. This is about the what used to be called the Selous Game Preserve. I'm pretty sure it's not called that anymore. It's in East Africa. The Selous, whatever it is now, this in Tanzania, this game preserve is immense. It has all of Africa's signature wildlife, all the things you think of when you think of African wildlife, is there. And I believe that I'll call it the Selous Game Preserve. It's not that, but I believe that nowadays, in the 21st century, it's hyper-regulated. No one lives there. And I think it's extremely regulated as to who goes in and what they do when they're in there. Now, that makes perfect sense. As big a place as it is, that makes perfect sense. Because if you let up your guard and poachers start to run wild in the Selous Game Preserve, you will lose out on hundreds of millions of dollars of tourism. These are the creatures. This is full of Hugo van Lawick's great photography. And this area is full of the animals that people will pay any amount of money to go and look at. It wasn't nearly so well regulated. It was really kind of ragged when I was there. I went a few times to various parts of this area, of the area that comprises this game preserve. Had a lot of encounters of my own with some of the animals involved here, and I love this book. Not only the photography is incredible, but not only that, the prose is great as well. And like I said, I only ever see this as a trade paperback. So when I saw the hardcover, I will reinforce this and make it nice. And this will go in the little book room. So will the little brown book, the Wodehouse on Wodehouse book. The Montaigne volume will replace the Montaigne Penguin that's in there, I'm pretty sure. And I believe the Bruce Catton volumes will as well, once I've cleaned them up. And this thing. And so I was glad to find this anyway. But also, next month, or is it the month after that? Peter Matthiessen has there's a big biography of him coming out. His first biography. I've read the advanced copy, and I'm going to be studying the finished copy, and it has made me go back to reread as much Peter Matthiessen as I can. His nonfiction, his running commentary, his fiction, as much of it as I can. There's quite a bit of it here. There's quite a bit of it that I don't have. And so this was two birds with one stone, because not only is it reading his prose, but it's a book that I really want. So there you go. That was a trip to the Brattle. On a trip to the Brattle on a morning where any weather advisory anywhere in New England would have said that if you are all of 28 years old, you should not go to a used bookstore in this weather. Surely you can wait a day. Those heat advisories would have said you shouldn't go, no matter how early in the morning you go. It's still going to be 85 degrees. And if you make the mistake of going, well, okay, we advise you against it. Heat exhaustion or heat strain can happen out of the blue, and it's more likely to happen the older you are. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to make a mistake and do that, well, the thing you certainly shouldn't do is to then carry 100 pounds of books in even hotter weather on your way home. And I did. I did both of those things. I did it for the Dudebro cause. I don't think I can do a Steve Pyramid here. Let's give it a try. We have Sand Rivers. Very happy to have this, really. I mean, a lot of these things are in rough shape, but I will fix them up, so you scarcely notice. Then the Centennial History of the American Civil War. I really cannot, I know that not all of you are Civil War guys, but I really cannot express to you what you are missing in terms of sheer reading joy to miss Bruce Catton's prose. I know I've said that a million times, but you really, it's not just that you're missing out on great history. You're missing out on a great reading experience. Those of you who think, oh, well, I take your opinion seriously when it comes to books, but you're a nonfiction reader and I wouldn't get anything out of those at all. You are wrong. You are wrong about that. But anyway, Jacobean Pageant, a nice double, always nice to find. The Wodehouse by John le Carre, slowly completing my hardcover collection of John le Carre. If I've got all of P.G. James in hardcover, I should have all of John le Carre. Then Reading I Have Liked by Clifton Fadiman and The Joy of Reading by Van Doren, two men who knew each other. We have Advice to a Young Critic by George Bernard Shaw. We have From Bed to Worst by Robert Benchley, but I am not going to collect Benchley. Okay, as long as that's clear. We have The Naked Jape. We have 125 years of publishing from Little Brown here in Boston. We have Wodehouse on Wodehouse, a nice Penguin trade paperback. We have My Wars Are Laid Away in Books, a big, rich biography of Emily Dickinson. We have the complete essays of Montaigne in a brand new Penguin trade paperback. And we have Essential Stories by V.S. Pritchett, this little thing, as opposed to the huge trade paperback that would be my other alternative. So, or I guess I could get the Pritchett Century. It's a neat little volume, and it has, I think, a few short stories in it and excerpts from novels. But anyway, there you go. Gigantic pile of books from the Brattle Bookshop. I had a wonderful time. I don't know when I will be going back. The weather forecast, long-range weather forecasts, are predicting on and off rain for days and days. Last 5 times that they've made that prediction has simply been wrong, and there hasn't been any rain at all. When the forecast said rain. So that might not happen, but I think this is enough for a weekend anyway. This is enough for a weekend, probably for all of next week as well. So I will wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.